Greetings, folks. Welcome back to the Jason Damico Show. We are here. We are live for those of you watching, listening, tuning in. And very special guest, as always, on the show, guitarist for Jessica Lynn. Phenomenal player and really, really great with tones and just love his playing. We're going to talk a little bit about guitar, gear, some other great stuff. Please welcome to the show my good friend, Mr. Steve Sterlacci.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have
Pleasure
you, man.
to be here.
Yeah, we're for those watching, listening, this is take two because we had a little bit of a power outage situation, last week?
Yeah, the whole Northeast like my parents live in Florida, Hurricane Central, and it rained and we had wind here for like 2 hours and it knocked the power out for an entire week.
Yeah.
Everybody up here lost power for days. Some people just got it back yesterday.
You guys were out for what, a couple of days then?
Yeah, literally on the show. We were like 20 minutes into the interview and it just went black. At least one before I was like, we lose power if the wind, if the wind farts loud. So
Right.
But that was not fun. A couple days without, but we lived.
Well, it's good to have you back. Good to have you guys surviving the whatever it was, the tropical depression storm. I'm not even sure. By the time I got up there, it was like, but yeah, so let's just go real quick through your beginning stages, how you got into playing and talk a little bit about how you got into music.
All right. So I don't have the typical story of, started when you were like 6 years old or when you were 10 years old. When did you start playing?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, like 2, 3, 4.
Young, right?
Yeah.
So I was like a really late beginner. My grandfather got me my first guitar my senior year of high school. And even then I didn't play it a lot because I was very focused on playing baseball. I'd gotten a scholarship to play in college. And that was always my first dream. And then in college, I started hanging out with this girl. That's my dog, Audrey. But I started hanging out with this girl who is now my wife, long story short. But I started going to see her band and they were playing 4 nights a week. Hold on. I got to get her bone.
We'll talk about Audrey here in a second because that's a great story.
Thanks for taking her. All right. Speaking of her, there she is. But so now that girl is my wife, Jessica Lynn, the artist that I play for, and my better half. So now she's having a tug of war with my dog on the side here. You can edit this out, right? We're good.
I can. I mean, we don't have to, but
it's better entertainment this way.
Yeah, man, it's real.
So I was watching her cover band play, 4 nights a week while we were in college. So I was there on baseball scholarship. I would, be the band roadie, help carry stuff. And
you guys went to the same school?
Yeah, that's where we met. First day of college.
Okay.
Yeah, we're both math nerds. So I'm my master's in math ed, and she's math ed and special ed.
Right. Wow. Okay.
So that's how we met, was in school, and both pursuing totally opposite careers, but going to school on the side type of thing. So they had a really great guitar player in this band. And I just remember watching him being like, oh, like I want to be able to do that. And being an athlete my whole life, I was never a lazy athlete. I always had a really good work ethic. So I just, hit the pavement and really focused and really practiced a lot. And before I knew it, I was playing second guitar in the band for a while. When Jessica and I started dating and things started getting a little more serious, I was at all the shows anyway. The first songs that I learned were just the songs that they played. It's not like I didn't go through like a Led Zeppelin era like normal guitar players would, where you probably learned every Jimmy Page solo or every Slash solo or every Insert Your Hero solo and, song. I was just like, I want to be good enough to play rhythm guitar in that band, that cover band. So I got all the rhythm parts down, and as guitar players came and went, eventually one day they were just like, we're sick of looking for somebody else. You're up. And I was like, so I went from rhythm guitarist to lead guitarist overnight, and, total trial by fire, fell on my ass so many times, like so many train wrecks came out of that. But it was the best learning experience that I could have ever gotten as a musician and as a guitar player, that now nothing can phase me on stage.
What do you think was the most difficult challenge for you when learning the instrument? I'm really curious to see what
That's a
it was
great
for
question. So my most difficult thing was this,
you.
being in my own head, because
Mm.
I was so self-conscious, playing with professionals that have been playing, Jessica since she's 6 years old, her parents, their whole life. They're also in the band, by the way. Jessica's father plays bass,
Right.
mother plays keyboards, and also sings lead vocal in the band. So I'm like, oh man, they're going to think I suck. They're going to think this is the worst thing ever. And oh my God, if I make a mistake, they're going to know. And that for me was the most stressful part. Physically, like I said, I worked hard on the physical aspect. So I spent a lot of time getting, dexterity and coordination in my fingers. So that part wasn't it. But I would say the mental approach to gigging, mental approach to playing, mental approach to my surroundings, and rhythm guitar, locking into a groove and playing with a band the right way. This is a professional dance band. This isn't it wasn't like, rock and roll where you could be a little sloppy. It's like this had to groove and it had to swing. So I would say
Right.
that's probably my big thing, was just mental awareness of my surroundings type of thing.
When did it click for you as far as getting out of your head? Was there any moment or just kind of when did it click?
Well, I'm hoping any day now. When did it click? It wasn't something that's tangible for me. It's like, when you're trying to like work out like a hard solo to play, and you'll be really, woodshedding it and practicing and practicing and practicing. You just can't get it.
Right.
And then you just say, screw it, I'm putting it away for a day or two. You come back a couple days later and you're like, oh, I just have it now.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. And it also kind of clicked when Jessica's father, who's the band leader and bass player, when he stopped looking like I don't want to use bad words online, but when he stopped looking
This
like
is
he was
this
ready
is
to
an
kill me.
uncensored show, so you can, it's up
When
to
he
you.
wasn't looking, when he stopped looking like he was smelling shit after the show, then I knew that I was going to be okay. Because there were, I love him to death still, but he's very honest about music. So there were a couple times where I'd hear him say, maybe this isn't a great idea. So once all that started going away, eventually it did go away. And I was like, okay,
right.
I'm comfortable now. But a lot of it,
go ahead.
I was gonna say a lot of, I guess you could summarize it all as confidence, right? The whole mental aspect of gigging and, everything. It's just about confidence. And really, I started coming into my own confidence wise, I think, when I started posting videos on YouTube and stuff. That kind of helped me realize that, okay, maybe I'm okay at this enough where people actually like it. Other than that, I was, that's when Jessica was going on tour and stuff, and I was playing in her band and stuff. So I was already doing it professionally for, at this point, this probably was 8 years. So I'm talking about just like the last year and a half since I started posting videos on YouTube. And I kind of still always felt I don't want to say in Jessica's shadow, because that's not totally it at all, but I never felt like I was good. I felt like I was good enough to play her music, but I never felt like I was a good guitar player, if that makes sense. And then once I started posting videos and started getting feedback and comments and growing, if you want to call it a fan base, I'm about to cross, 3,700 subscribers today. So that's not bad for a year and a half.
Congrats, man. It's cool.
So once I started getting feedback and talking to people and getting, I guess, compliments and kind of branching out on my own, not being under the Jessica umbrella, really helped in my confidence as a player.
How did you find your voice? as far as playing and really dialing in.
And I guess it's like we're all a product of our influences and, what we listen to and like subconsciously what we hear. I honestly don't even know. It's hard to pinpoint anything because I kind of have a chameleon mentality serving the song, playing
Right.
when I'm going to play on the song. But
Right.
I feel like finding your own voice in the guitar has a lot to do with how you approach notes. So something that I spent a lot of time on that helped me sound better was vibrato and bends.
Yep.
So I would spend so much time, like if you listen back to like old tapes of me and I'm just like, now I listen and cringe, but I started listening back and it's like, I had this frantic vibrato. It was fast, which some people might think is cool, but it was only one speed. And it was just bend vibrato, like really fast. So I spent a lot of time slowing it down, like just vibrato wise, like milking one note.
Oh,
My
yeah.
biggest guitar influence is Gary Moore.
Oh, yeah, man.
Who,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he'll melt your face off and make you cry in the same solo.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I started really tuning into how he would play. Like if you listen to Still Got the Blues, like
Oh, my God.
the notes that he chooses to put vibrato on and then other notes, no vibrato at all. You're just like, ugh, like you feel him like ripping your heart out. So
Yeah.
started trying to copy that and just pick and choose what notes to put vibrato on, which ones to not, how to control vibrato. Like that's a big part, especially, when I'm teaching people. Controlling vibrato makes you sound professional. Physically playing is one thing, but when you can control that vibrato and make it sing, that's kind of what separates you from an average Joe guitar player, in my opinion.
100%. There's that one video of Gary, and that song, and he played it live. I'm not sure when it was. It was probably late 80s, early 90s. And, oh, my God, man. I don't even know. They may have used that as a release because it was so good. And I feel like I've heard it on the radio, that version. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. It's some live show. But
he's got the Live at Montreux 5-disc set that
maybe that's it. Montreux.
I mean, I listen to it in my car all the time, and his live stuff is so much better than the studio stuff. Like, there's nothing like, and I'm sure you can relate to this, like the emotion of playing live in front of an audience versus playing in a studio. Like, studio, you're so worried about being technically perfect and stuff, and then like a guy like him, when he's on stage, you just see him sweating buckets, just pouring it all out.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yes. Like everything about this is yes.
Didn't he do something with I can't remember if it was a tribute for a player or if it was something with Clapton.
Hendrix. He did
the Red House thing.
Dude, that's what made me a fan of his. Was I came across it on Facebook, the Stratocaster 50th anniversary video of him playing Red House. I was like, whoa. That was the first I ever heard of him. And I was like, who is this man and what is he doing?
That was probably one of the nastiest things I've ever seen. It's like one of the nastiest.
One of my really good buddies was there.
Oh, okay.
So he was there. One of my buddy, Johnny Lee, is one of my best friends. And he was there at the anniversary event. And he said that performance blew everybody away. David Gilmour, everybody that was there for the Stratocaster event. Like he said that one Gary Moore performance was like obliterated everything that came onto the stage that night.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite videos. I remember, and I never knew who Gary Moore was until that video. And I was like, oh, wow, this guy's been around and he's gone, right? He passed away a few years back. But I was like, oh, wow, he's been around.
Yeah. And the cool thing is like, he started off as like a blues guy, and then went into this whole metal era.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like he's so fast. Like, he's like as fast as any metal player could be.
Oh, yeah.
And that metal career was okay, like in the middle of the road. And then in like the late 80s, early 90s, like you said, he went back to basics and started doing blues tunes. And he went on tour with Albert King. And Albert King was like, Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know
And
that.
Albert King was like, he was like, man, you're great, but you need to slow down. So
Yeah,
being on that tour, like totally changed him. And then now that's the blues player that I'm obsessed with.
yeah.
But then he mixes in some shredding stuff and you're just like, ugh. It's just so
Anybody
good.
who hung out with Albert King is just, to me, because Stevie Ray was my biggest influence when I was a teenager, and he was I mean, Albert was probably his biggest mentor besides Hendrix, but he never met Hendrix.
Yeah.
And I mean, talk about vibrato and milking the hell out of those 5, 6, 7 notes in that upper box position. I mean,
Yep.
he would just sit there for entire solos, and it was just so iconic.
That's where, like you said, about the voice. It's just about the touch and the vibrato, man. It's all the Kings. Well, Freddie was a little more.
Freddie had kind of a B.B.
Wicked.
King had the really, it was frantic, but it was very sweet, very very fast. Freddie was a little bit more. Dude, he's got some great stuff, and his voice is just like
I think Freddie's my favorite of the three Kings. He's just so, like, his stuff is just so groovy, and like you watch him play, and it's just like you can't help but like have to dance like to his music.
And his vocal sounds like he's got like a walnut stuck in his throat. He's got that weird like rasp that I've never heard out of anybody else. It's really cool.
So good.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say that you're a utility guy then, as far as genre, because you've got especially with Jessica's music. And by the way, congrats on some of the new material that's coming out that I've seen. Really, really great stuff. Great playing, great songs. Record sounds great.
Appreciate it.
But a lot of different. And when we had her on the show earlier this year, we talked about genre, and she's country, she's rock, she's got some blues, she's got a little bit of pop. So with your playing and incorporation of all of those elements, where do you kind of find your home base, like you personally, compared to being the utility guy? What do you feel like you gravitate towards the most?
Trying to sound like Neil Schon.
Can't go wrong. I mean, can't go wrong with that.
Whenever I play on Jessica's music, for some reason, and I'm not a huge Journey head. I love Neil Schon. I respect the hell out of him, but it's not like I know all of his solos note for note or anything. But it just seems like whenever I'm in the studio playing on Jessica's stuff, that's where my headspace goes. It's like kind of like okay, what would Neil play? And that's just what winds up coming. Les Paul singing notes and
right.
a lot of sustain, and then maybe mix in a little shred in there. But I don't know.
That's a great answer, man. I mean, I'm a biased person to talk to because my dad's a big Journey guy, and he got me turned on to Journey at an early age, and we always talked about the singing, the singing voicing with his solos, and just the whole mentality behind that. It's like, God, Who's Crying Now, and able to really pull off those solos in a way where it's a clean tone, but it's still sustained.
Yep.
And well, speaking of tone, you put out a really cool video a few weeks back or a month back about clean. Let's talk about that for a second. I thought that was really interesting, that video that you put out on dialing in tones. And a lot of players a lot of guys coming up, it's kind of new territory for them, where they think they can just plug in and it's like, that's a tone. And sometimes that is the case with a really good amp and good guitar. But your experience with because you use a lot of clean tones in her music. Talk a little bit about what you talked about on that video. I thought that was great, about dialing in and really bringing in that sound without necessarily using compression, which I think is pretty interesting.
So my big struggle with clean tone was it's always flat to me, especially if you're primarily playing, crunchy sounds or, more distorted sounds. And then once you get to that clean tone, it's like, to me, it either sounds way too compressed or people put too much chorus on it, because if you don't have those, it just sounds like like it's not there. So I follow a lot of session players, a lot of the Nashville Cats and, you know, the LA studio guys. And I started seeing more and more that the compressor is kind of going away. The chorus is going away. And a lot of guys use a clean boost, just a clean boost. So you could dial your amp up to like a sweet spot where it's nice and jangly, and then just hit it with a subtle clean boost. It doesn't have to have any gain on it, just a little bit to fatten up, especially with like a Telly or a Strat.
Right.
Comparatively to a Les Paul, you know, you
Yeah.
need a little bit extra beef to it. So just keeping like, let's see if I had it next to me, but like the RC booster from Exotic Effects, like keeping all the knobs at noon and just putting a little bit of gain on it. Just, it puts the amp into a level of compression that does the compression. So it's a more natural compression coming from the amp. So instead of using a compressor to clamp your signal, it just slams the front end of the amp and sends it into a natural compression.
And I tell guys this all the time. It's like clean really isn't clean. You know, if you find, especially the records that I think you and I really have been influenced by over the years, and especially that old gear, there was really no such thing as clean. By the time, even with a vocal, by the time you're going into a tube microphone or a tube pre, going into a console, hitting tape, hitting other, you know, mastering tape later on, those records that we love, by the time you hear that vocal bus or a clean guitar bus, there's some dirt in there, but in the context of the mix, it's clean, quote unquote.
That's the other thing. Like if you listen to, this was something that would drive me nuts. Like before I even made that video, I'd have this really nice clean tone in my headphones or in my, you know, in the room. And then I'd get on stage or I'd get in the studio and it would just be non-existent.
Right.
So when I started using that clean boost, and literally by itself, if you put on the bridge pickup and hit it hard, it'll sound a little, you know, a little bit like distortion. Just enough distortion, like just a very subtle amount. But then in the context of a mix, it doesn't sound distorted.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds crystal clean within the context of a mix, but that, I think that little extra gain, compression, and that subtle little bit of, you know, distortion or overdrive, whatever you want to call it, just gets it a little more out in front.
For sure. I've been a big fan these days of trying to dial in as much as possible without and utilizing any compression, really see if you can get things up front with saturation or, yeah, I mean, mainly saturation, whether it's tube or tape tape emulation or whatever. Because I find the more and more, the more you can do that and keep your transients, especially with like a single coil pickup, that's where the love is. But you got to be able to equalize where that RMS is with when you hit that sustaining chord. When is that going to drop out in context, but still maintain the sparkle of the transient?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why the compressor I do use is the Wampler Ego Comp, because that's got a dry blend on it.
Right.
So you can control obviously the attack, but you can also control the mix. So I guess it technically splits you into a parallel, and you could blend in how much dry signal goes through. It keeps a little bit more of the transient, like you were saying. If I do use one.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about gear. You're using what line is that again with line 6?
The Helix.
The Helix.
Yeah.
Really cool. So I use Kemper for a lot of my stuff, but I've heard a lot of great things about the Helix. They're both industry standard. Talk a little bit about that for a few minutes, because I'm sure I could learn something out of it. Some of the viewers, some of the guitar players could learn something out of it. And I know that you've been working with Line 6 now for a little bit, and yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so I have presets for sale on the Line 6 website from working on, you know, from constantly posting videos about it and trying to help other people, you know, find their voice in the Helix. But it's just the one that I chose, you know. They're all great. Like there's the Helix, Kemper, Axe Effects, Headrush, you know, all types of crap is out there now. But I chose the Helix because it's got a lot of routing capabilities, and the snapshots are something that really sold me. So all the modeling is great. You know, there's really, if you can listen to any of our live shows and tell me that you hear something digital, then you're either too much of a genius for the general population or you're full of crap. So I don't hear anything ever wrong with it. It sounds consistent every single night. Drop it, plug it, play, and it's the same every night. If I need to tweak to a certain PA, I have that flexibility also. But it's just become so easy for me to hone in exactly what tone I want out of it, and it gets me great results. I actually run Jessica and mine, both of our electric guitars, through it at the same time for our live show. So we have two independent paths completely within one unit. So her guitar signal is not affected by my guitar signal. There's separate ins and outs right on the Helix, and I control all of her foot switches with the snapshots. Snapshots are technically presets within a preset. So if you think of like a preset as a master rig, like your preset has your amp, your pedals, and your effects, everything in one preset. Within that preset, you can have up to 8 preset sounds.
Wow.
So if you want to have more gain on the amp, more bass, and then another sound you want to have less gain on the amp, you can control amp parameters, turn things on and off, pedal parameters. You can scientifically dial in each foot switch to be a totally different sound.
This might be a little bit of a crazy question. I'm just curious to see what your answer would be. If you had to like say what, as a guitar player, as a tone crafter, whatever you want to call it, what is the main thing that somebody needs to be aware of when they're dialing in? Like what is that one thing that you keep hearing from guys coming up, you know, amateurs or borderline amateur? Like, just what is that one mistake in your opinion, tone wise, that just keeps showing up?
It's a good question. In terms of the Helix, at least I could answer this, I guess, 2 ways. In terms of the Helix, it's definitely making the presets too hot.
Okay.
And I was guilty of this for a while too, where we're guitar players. We just want to keep making things louder.
Right.
But eventually, like, if you just turn up all the volumes and all the gains, it just starts getting this really nasty, fizzy, high-end, distorted, crappy sound. And I started realizing the closer you can get to a bypass dry guitar signal, the better it's going to sound, because that's more the way it was intended to sound. So if you just plug into a fresh preset, play your guitar, that's where your end volume should be also. So for Helix, that's definite. I just put out a video that's actually doing pretty well on how I level my presets. And if you plug in directly, go into the USB interface, you're around minus 12 dB. That's where, after you dial in your preset, it should still be around minus 12 dB. However you get there is up to you.
Right.
But I would say the high end is also a problem in both Helix and in real life, like listening to guitar players and stuff. You know, that finding the combination of getting the sweet high end versus the harsh high end.
Right.
That's a tough one to find.
Yeah. You got to play with it.
Yeah.
Definitely got to play with it. What's your creative process as far as in the studio? I know that you guys work together and collaborate on parts and what's going to work. How does that work for you guys as far as what's your philosophy on it?
So we record one at a time. Bass and drums will do a basic rhythm track first. And then depending on the track, sometimes Jessica throws a rhythm guitar on, and then I'll come in with the electric parts. And my plan is to have no plan.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I want to go into everything.
Yeah, it makes great sense.
Yeah, no preconceived notions, like no ideas. Some basic, just from knowing the song, you know, having some melodic ideas. But as far as layering guitar parts, maybe I'll hear something listening to it before we get in. But I like to just go in there with a blank mind and let the creativity take itself. And then, you know, one part may influence another part. Hey, this part works great off of that part. And, you know, you build it from scratch every time.
Right. Yeah, man. It's Working on this new record that I'm in the process of doing right now. I've just kind of thrown away a lot of restraints that I've had on myself over the years. I'm kind of doing things back when I was younger and just doing weird things, like just recording without a click, like, you know, all those like real things that people used to do and still do. And dude, there's such a thing as the first take.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It
and
exists.
there's such a thing as, you know, the mistake, like leaving it in there.
Yeah.
And it becomes the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
goes back to confidence, right?
Yeah.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just do it.
That's it.
Can't remember what actor that. What's his name? One of those famous memes. Shia LaBeouf, maybe. Is that his name?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you guys have some new music coming out, or it's already out, right?
Both.
Okay. So the new record just came out.
Well, the full record, the new track just came out, but the full record's going to be due out later this year.
Okay. And what's
So
the title of the album again?
I think at this point,
the single is It's Now or Never, right? That's the one that
single is Now or Never.
Okay.
At this point, I think it's called The Lone Rider is the album
Lone
name.
Rider. That's it. And
currently, that's the name.
Right. And that's allegedly going to drop later in the year, 2020?
Yeah.
Okay,
yep.
Cool. Well, social media for you, folks can find, we'll have all of the links down below in the description to below or the sides, depending on where people are watching, listening. But I want to touch on social media for a second real quick, because you guys are nothing short of phenomenal with how you guys run Jessica's social, your social. I just thought I'd open up the floor for a couple of minutes before we start wrapping things up, just to talk about that, you know, in this day and age and Web 2.0, your thoughts and on how to run social media as a musician and as an artist.
Well, Jess is the absolute queen. I mean, she's like, every day she's on it. It's like, I'm constantly like, hey, you know, we're people and we should communicate. And she's like, sorry, got to get my post ready. Got to answer everybody. She answers
everybody.
Everything.
Yeah.
And it takes her forever, but she always says, she had a really good Instagram story yesterday of a Q&A with fans. And that was one of the things. The whole point of social media is to be social.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure, right? So she's always interacting and engaging with fans, friends, and always in some type of conversation as far as social media goes. Me, I get frustrated. I get so frustrated because, you know, as a male and as a guitar player, I could post the greatest solo I've ever played, or I could post, you know, if you post a picture of like your face, it's like, it's uncool sometimes. It's like, I never know what to post. My Instagram fluctuates so much. Like, I'll go through phases where I'll be posting guitar pictures, you know, consistent gear pictures. It's showing all the guitar nerds what, you know, I have. And then that'll be getting a ton of likes. And then it'll just suddenly go away. And then all of a sudden performance pictures are working. And then suddenly pictures of my actual face work. Just, it's constant trial and error, experimenting and riding the wave of what's working.
Right. Constant course correction, you know.
Always. There's nothing like what worked for me 3 years ago doesn't work for me now. What worked for me 6 months ago doesn't work for me now. So I'm not going to find what's working now without looking.
And not to totally shift gears, I'm curious to see what your best and worst gig experiences are. If you had one of each, to kind of anything memorable, really great and just really horrible.
Okay. I got plenty.
I'm sure.
As far as funny story goes, well, I'll tell you the easy one first. Like a highlight for me personally. Like I said, I really wasn't doing YouTube videos until like last February was my first video. So I'm like a year and a half in. And last summer on tour, I had people come up to me after the shows in Europe and in the States, like people that I've from across the world being like, hey, you know, I have a Helix too, and I watch all your videos, so I wanted to come and see if you guys were actually any good. And I was like, holy shit, like someone actually came to a Jessica Lynn show to see me play. And like, I have never experienced that before. So that was pretty cool for me to experience. It happened a couple of times. There was like 7 shows that happened where, you know, it's only like 1 or 2 people, but they would come up to me and want to talk about, you know, the Helix and say that they saw my videos and saw that we were coming to Europe and decided to come to the show because of that. That's the good side. My worst gig experience, and I'll talk about, I guess, one funny one and one kind of tragic one.
Sure.
So the tragic one, we have this all on video, this one. You know how Jess and I are both running through my same Helix. So we do this song, Johnny Be Good, in our show. Everybody winds up like round robin switching instruments. Jess plays a lead guitar solo and kind of like knocks me out of the way, like where everyone thinks I'm about to play it. And she kind of, you know, says, hey, get out of the way and watch this. When she did that at this one festival in Lithuania in front of like at least 10,000 people, when she bumped me, my cable turned the knob on the Helix and muted her and turned her sound completely off. So she was out front, you know, doing a guitar solo that was inaudible because my cable turned her off. I actually did a fail reaction video to the video of that. It was a great show, great festival, and that was the encore. So that's how I went out. It was also the last show of the tour, so we went home like the next day. You can imagine what that was like after the show.
Right.
So that's my tragic one.
I'm glad you're still here, my friend.
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Luckily, it was the last show of the tour, so I was able to recover.
Right.
So my funny one, we played this private event in Baltimore. I'm a huge Chick-fil-A fan.
Yes.
I love Chick-fil-A. Any chance we get to go there, I'm in. So half the band had already been at this place in Baltimore, and they were telling us that the hotel room had little coupons for Chick-fil-A, or the people from the private party gave us like a goodie bag, and that was one of the things. So we were on our way to Baltimore, and I was like, all right, I'm getting Chick-fil-A. I don't care. I'll get it before, I'll get it after, I'll get it during, I'll get it every day. So Jess says, well, if we're getting Chick-fil-A, why don't we just wait until we get the things? We'll go somewhere else. All right, whatever. Happy wife, happy life. We wind up going to Chipotle, which was fine. I've had Chipotle before, no problem. Next day, everything's great. We set up, we sound check. We have dinner there, really fantastic catering. We get on stage and I just start sweating. My stomach starts bubbling and I'm just like, I'm going to shit my pants. And I'm literally white as a ghost sweating. So the whole first half of the show, I'm like, thank God it was outdoors because it would not have worked well for the rest of the group if we were indoors. Be in full disclosure. So
have you told this story before?
Jessica has.
Okay.
Jessica likes to tell this one because it's funny. She likes to embarrass me on stage. So at this point on this tour, we were doing an 1.5-hour show straight through.
Right.
And halfway through, we did All Right Now by Free, Paul Kossoff, another amazing solo.
Yeah.
So it's a huge guitar solo, like this really big guitar solo in the middle. And after that, the set kind of goes back down in energy, like it goes to a climax, and then we bring it back down low. So I'm looking at the rest of the band. I'm looking at Matt, our percussionist, and I'm like, I'm gonna shit myself. Like I'm literally like it was the worst feeling ever. I'm going to everybody in the band, and I'm just like, you okay? Like, was catering like all right for you? Like, I'm just and this is all while we're playing. So I finished playing All Right Now, like the big solo, and it was the best I ever played it, I think. So much emotion went into that solo.
Yeah, I'm all right now,
Yeah,
but I'm not all
exactly.
right. Like,
I'm definitely not all right. So again, at that point, the show dies down a little bit energy wise. So we have a protocol in the band called "Play Pretty" because that's Jessica's song that we haven't done in a long time. But one of our original drummers, second drummer that ever was in the band, one time during a show had to shit himself and literally just got up and ran and said, "Play Pretty, I need to shit," and ran off the stage. So since then, we have a protocol. If anyone has to shit themselves, we play Pretty because it's an acoustic number. So Jess just plays it by herself. So after All Right Now, I tap Jess on the shoulder and I'm like, "Play Pretty." And she's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, "I am serious." And she's like, "Oh, okay. So I drop my guitar and I walk off the stage all cool and casual. And Jess goes, "All right, so Steve's not feeling well, so he's going to leave the stage for a little bit." And I'm like, way to play it cool.
way to, yeah.
Way to play it cool. So this really nice Italian woman was our host, like our,
Oh boy.
like, so she goes, "Okay, come on, baby, come on, this way. And she like relayed me into a bathroom, and holy crap, it was not good. So I had my in-ears in. I still have my in-ear pack on. So I'm hearing Jessica say, "Oh yeah, I guess Steve had Chipotle last night. I guess he's not feeling too well, so he's gonna leave the stage." I'm like, like that's what you're telling everybody? Come on. So they wound up playing an acoustic number without me. So I knew exactly how much time I had because I had the in-ears in. But
Yeah.
oh man, it was not a pretty sight. So I came back out after the song to a standing ovation. Once I got back on stage, everybody was like, "Yeah."
Dude,
So I was
that's
just like,
great,
"It happens to
man.
everybody. Okay. Everybody relax." So it turned into a funny moment. You know, I'm a cool sport about all that stuff. It's all funny.
Right.
But everybody there, you know, they were all clapping for me, like, you know, the sarcastic clap. I made a lot of friends that day.
Man, you're a soldier.
Tragic, right?
Soldier.
But that's a good one.
I mean, I've heard a lot of stories on this show. That one's up there, man.
You're welcome.
That did not disappoint.
Yeah, that's Jessica's favorite to tell people. So when people ask me,
that one,
they usually ask me like, "Oh, well, have you ever shit yourself on stage?" And like, no. I'm like, I have.
man. Wow.
I just made it too.
Yeah, I bet. Wow.
Where do we go from here?
Well, we'll kind of progress over to the wrap up of this. I like doing a little thing called the shootout, which is I'll say a word that's industry related, and you kind of say a word back just off the top of your head. No judgment zone, no right or wrong answers, just whatever.
Okay.
So Chipotle. No, I'm just kidding.
Shit.
Guitar.
Oh man. Playing.
Strings.
Annoying to change. That's more than one word, but
yes. Amp.
Overrated.
Oh boy. Them are fighting words. No, but man, I mean, come on. They've got it dialed in so well now.
Digital's the world, man.
They got it dialed in. If you want some tubiness, just put a preamp in front of it.
If you need it.
Yeah. Tone.
Life.
Stage.
Also life. My favorite place to be.
Yeah. Delay.
Needs to be tastefully done.
Yes. Reverb.
Always needed.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a reverb. I'm a sucker for reverb.
Wow. Show.
Playing a guitar solo.
Let me see if I can read my own writing here. Oh, yeah. Rehearsal.
Depends on Jessica's mood.
Distortion.
Again, needs to be tastefully done, but big fan.
Wah. Yeah.
Occasionally very nice.
Okay. Club, like club size.
Club size, like venue size.
Yeah.
I like the small and rowdy over the big and separated. You know what I mean?
Right. A little bit more intimate. I
Yep.
feel like I'm the same way.
The different energy, like that bar or small club energy where, people are rowdy and into it versus like some of the festivals where the stage is like 20 feet from the front row and you're just
Yeah.
like a little disconnected.
Yeah. Do you not to digress on that for a second? Do you feel that you get more antsy at those, like before those gigs, than the larger crowds?
I find I don't get antsy anymore. I shit myself on stage, so
Right. It really can't get much worse than that.
what do I look forward to more? I guess you could say, if I wanted to answer that in my own way. It depends on the festival stage and time. If it's a good festival stage and a good time, then always that, because there's just a certain, like, you could feel the crowd noise coming back at you.
Right.
And everybody loves guitar solos. So like during guitar solos, you hear that and you feel like, when you feel your amp behind you, but you feel crowd noise coming from in front of you, is like, makes the hair on your neck stand up.
Right. Yep. Well, arena is the next one, or whatever. You just substitute with festival.
Yeah. So we got
Whatever.
that one.
New York.
Home, it's the last place that you would expect country musicians to come out of.
Last one and most important, pizza.
Thin and crispy.
Yep. We always ask everybody this towards the end, which is, if you could go back in time to your 15-year-old self, knowing what you know now, what would you tell him?
I wouldn't tell him anything about your future, but I would tell you to work harder. Just vague, work harder.
Interesting. Well, I think we've covered pretty much everything that we needed to cover, unless there's anything that we left out. Thanks again, man. This has been great.
Of course. Time flies and you're having fun, right?
Yeah. It's cool that with the power stayed on.
What is your favorite guitar to play? Like what type? You're a Les Paul guy I see in your videos lately.
Yeah, well, so that's a funny story. That's actually Glenn Fry's Les Paul.
Nice.
Well, it was one of his. My neighbor, literally right over that way, which you guys can't see, obviously, because of the wall. But yeah, so he grew up Michigan. Glenn Fry knew Don Henley, hung out the Eagles, and that was basically gave it to me. I mean, what he charged was just a stupid low amount. It was ridiculous. So yeah, love that. Love it. It's all stock. So 73. Love it.
Nice.
I mean, I started out as a Strat guy. If you threw me on a stranded island, it would probably be a Strat. Just because it's a Strat and it's percussive and you can do things on it they just can't do with any other guitar. Yeah, I love them all, man. I've got this Ibanez like 335 thing going on, and it's really cool, semi-hollow. So I used to be very, very Strat oriented. Now it's more kind of like whatever. Humbuckers, you just can't beat them for sustain. And with the Marshall, yeah, I mean, can't beat it.
Yeah. I agree. I also have a Celebrity Les Paul. Is it here? No, it's hanging in my bedroom. But so my Les Paul that I have, it's a 79, so it's probably just as heavy as yours.
Yeah.
almost 12 pounds. But
Original Michigan factory too, because before they moved to Nashville.
yeah, it's the Norland era. So mine, I found on Instagram. I saw this shop in Seattle post this guitar for sale, and it's unlike any Les Paul I've ever seen before. My two big heroes when I first was playing, before I ever heard Gary Moore, were Randy Rhoads and Slash.
Yep.
So Slash's flame top, Randy Rhoads had the white custom. This guitar was a dark cherry flame top custom, split diamond headstock, split block inlays. The best looking Les Paul I've ever seen in my life. And I saw it on Instagram. I told Jess, I was like, there's something about this guitar I need to have. So I called him. I put it on layaway, just this gut feeling for no reason at all. I paid what, if anybody bought a Les Paul custom for this price, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's a great, great, great price.
Right.
I come to find out now, I've had it for years before I found any information out about it. It was a limited run of 24 guitars, and they only came out with them in that 1 year. It's some like famous Austrian violin maker passed away, and they bought up all his maple and made this flame top out of this guy's wood. And if you watch Journey Any Way You Want It, the music video, Neil Schon is playing the same exact guitar as me. So if you look at the modifications that were done to mine and you look at what his looked like, I found out through him, I commented on a bunch of stuff of his. I stalked his Instagram until he answered me. His guitar was stolen in the early 90s. And I've got pictures where it looks identical, and I've got pictures where it looks not even close. So a lot of people, including at Gibson, I met, I have a lot of friends at Gibson now from the NAMM show and stuff.
Right, right.
A lot of people think that I have his actual Any Way You Want It Les Paul.
Wow. Wow. Cool, man.
Yeah. And
well, he's pretty active on Instagram. Like I'll like some of his stuff or comment, and he'll like the comments. He's pretty accessible.
Yeah, he's a good dude, it seems like. But
yeah,
if I wrote him and I was like, hey, do you still have that guitar? And he's like, no, it was heisted in the 90s. And I was like, oh, well, I might have it. And then he just looked at my page and was like, no, that's not it. And that's it. Like, no. So that could either mean one of two things. It's actually not it, or fuck this kid. I'm not letting him have, I'm not letting him know if it's mine. Because he might be looking at it as this guy's probably trying to sell this off as my guitar. Either way, why am I going to let him make all this extra money on it?
Right.
So I don't know. But it's a cool guitar either way.
We'll have to start like an underground campaign for you.
Yeah.
It's like,
I've already got members. There's already members that are subscribed to this pursuit.
You got to figure this out, man. We got to figure this out somehow. In the next couple of years.
I have to somehow be in the same place at the same time as someone who knows him and put it in his hands and see what he thinks.
It was funny. Did you ever get into like Billy Idol, Steve Stevens, and his playing?
No, I accidentally made a Cocteau video, and that's what a lot of the feedback was. Steve Stevens and all that stuff. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I got into his playing because there was this one solo he did on, I think it was like Whiplash Smile, that record. It's like an early 80s record. It had a lot of the hits on that album. Not Rebel Yell, but maybe White Wedding and some other stuff. Hopefully I'm getting that album name right. It's the orange one and whatever. But there's this one song, I can't remember what it's called, but they go into this like jazzy breakdown thing. And it's like any standard rock solo is like here. And then there's this one solo on the record where it's just like up here. Like it's almost something that Al Di Meola would have played. Like it's just bizarre. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to learn this. Damn it, I'm going to learn this. So I learned it and there were no tabs online. I'm an ear guy, but I was like, I got to see if I'm really playing. There's no tabs on the internet, nothing. It's like this
Yeah.
obscure solo. And so I slowed it down on YouTube to like half speed or even quarter speed to really, because I mean, these are like 16th notes at 170 for this one last section. And it's just so it took me a couple of weeks to just kind of, sit down 30 minutes a day, whatever, play through it, get it, figure out what the hell fingering he's doing. So I do it. I remember I was in New York at the time. I had like 101 fever, looked like hell, and I finally got it because I was sick and I just had all this like time to like work on it. And I put up the phone, did it, played it. It was like, oh, cool. I got this like 3 years ago. Put it up on Instagram. It was like, oh man, this is like the most difficult solo ever. Really amazing. New fan of Steve Stevens. Awesome solo. Hopefully it's right. Whatever. Dude commented back and was like, well done.
Nice.
And I was
That's
like,
all you need.
Steve Stevens said, well done. Oh
the
my
weeks
God.
I just spent on this are worth it.
Yeah, so it's still out there. I'll see if I can find it and send you the link. But it's wild, man. Like, and that's what I love about some of those guitar, like the Neil Sean's and the Steve, like that whole era. Like a lot of those guys, they played to the song, but then you find like that one B-side or that one thing where they just rip, and it's like, what in the world,
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
And we're sick as guitar players that we'll spend weeks on 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
Anxiety, frustration, pain, all for those 10 seconds that we're never going to use other than to play in that video. Unless someone randomly at band rehearsal is like, hey, you know that Billy Idol song?
What's your favorite? I mean, and this is a ridiculous question because people ask me this all the time and I don't have an answer. But for you, what is your quintessential like guitar solo? Is it blues for you, Gary Moore? I mean, that to me would be probably in the top 5 of like just one of the great, like from front to back guitar performance. What do you think?
Listen to Gary Moore live at Montreux.
Right.
It's I think it's the one that's from '96. So there's videos of it on YouTube too. There's one in particular. He's got this black suit on. He's playing a Heritage Les Paul with EMGs, and he plays the Stumble, another Freddie King song. And
right,
just watch any Gary Moore live performance from the mid to late '90s will get you to where my listening lives. Especially whatchamacallit, Walking by Myself. There's one video, him in the red suit, this one performance of Walking by Myself. That was, for me, this intro that he hits on this is like, stop it, I'm learning that. And so that's mine.
Right. Yeah, you always have those moments.
I'll find you the link to put in the description.
Sure, yeah, send it.
That was, aside from the Stratocaster one, like, it looks like he's in this like smoky small club. Looks like maybe 60 people there. And he's like, all right, this next song is called Walking by Myself. And then he just comes in with the riff and you're like, okay. And it's like, the song? The riff's like, bow down, no, no, no.
I don't think so.
Bow down, no, no, no. That's how it starts. So it's just him in the hi-hat. And then he just explodes, like out of nowhere. And you're just like, whoa, like what just happened to my life? And then it goes back to just the hi-hat. It's a musical journey. So that would be my quintessential one song that is like, I would tell anyone you need to go listen to.
Yeah, definitely send the link. We're gonna put that down below. Social media for you, for those that are listening while driving their car. What are the handles for you as far as Instagram, YouTube?
Instagram is at Sterlacci, Stalach, Sterlacci. My last name's Sterlacci, and it's not Italian enough sounding, so you got to say hey, Sterlacci. And YouTube, if you just look Steve Sterlacci guitar, that's Sterlacci.
Cool, man. This has been great. Thanks again for your time, and looking forward to just more content, more. Everything you guys put out is great as a band,
Appreciate it, man.
as you as a guitar player, and yeah, great stuff.
Likewise, man. Your stuff too.
Appreciate it. Well, you guys been watching, listening to the Jason Damico show. Definitely check out Steve's linkage below. Hit subscribe to his channel. Follow him on Instagram, Facebook. All the links that we'll have for you. And Jessica Lynn as well, for those of you who don't know. And we will see you all on the next one. Peace.